Thank you for joining us. Our goal today is to give you a little background about the Bush Foundation and then some more specifics of the position and the hiring process. But first, let's introduce you to who is here today. I'll start. My name is Kim David, and I'll be running logistics today and also manage some of the logistics of this hiring process. Anita, you want to jump in?
Yeah, happy to. Thank you all for joining. Anita Patel, I'm the Vice President of Grant Making and the hiring manager for this role. Joni, how about you?
Thanks, Anita. I'm Joni Chasich. I'm the Talent and HR Manager here at Bush Foundation, and I'll be working closely with our search firm partners and Anita, Stephanie, and Kim related to hiring logistics, interview content, and participating in the finalist interviews. Stephanie?
Thanks, Joni. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm the Stephanie Andrews, the Talent Learning and Evaluation Director here at the Bush Foundation. I'm wearing my talent hat today, particularly working with Joni and Kim and Anita as we go through this process with our search partners, but also in the Grantmaking Director that we hire. I'm a close partner to them on the evaluation work related to the ecosystem grants, which you'll hear more about, and also other grant making work. So thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks. And also joining us today are Chris Cohen and Bao Espenson from our search partners, Cohen Taylor, and they will be introducing themselves in more detail a little bit later. But first, I'll throw it to Stephanie.
I get the pleasure of introducing you a little bit to people that you may have heard of, or you've heard the name Bush a lot, but you may not know who the Bush is in the Bush Foundation. Even people who have known about the Bush Foundation for a long time don't always know who these folks are. And so I want to introduce you to Archie, and Edith Bush. We sometimes say that our Bush is not from the beans or the beers, or the beers, or the presidents, but the Bush is Archie Bush, shown here with his wife Edith at their home in Florida. Archie was born in Granite Falls, Minnesota. His family business was farming, but unfortunately, maybe fortunately for us, his asthma didn't work so well with farming. And so instead he became a bookkeeper, and he went to work at a small firm that was then called Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing, or what we now know as 3M. He spent his career at 3M, much of it living in the city of St. Paul, an active participant in the life of and civic life of the city of St. Paul. He and his wife Edith set aside the funds that they'd earned during his career at the Bush Foundation and set up the Bush Foundation in 1953. Few restrictions on the foundation, really ensuring that board members and staff through the years could have the flexibility needed to meet whatever challenges of the day were there. So this means that what we do has changed a lot over the course of the foundation's life, but it also means that we've been flexible enough to be able to point our energy and our funds towards high impact work and to adapt to what's needed for the communities and people in this region. Since 1953, the Bush Foundation has invested more than $1 billion in individuals and communities in this region. Anita, do you want to tell folks a little bit more about what we do?
Yes, I do. What we do is invest in great ideas and the people who power them. It's that simple and that complex, and we do it across North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and the 23 Native nations that share that geography. So when we talk about investing in great ideas and the people who power them, it's not just a tagline, it really is our strategy to move our purpose forward. And we know that in order to do that, we have to be in touch with this really large and really diverse region, thinking about all the people within it and what it takes for this region and the people within it to thrive. And that really ladders into why we do it. So we talk about inspiring and supporting creative problem solving within and across sectors to make our region better for everyone. And everything we do is to advance this purpose. Each part of that phrase is important, inspiring. We look for kind of solutions with optimism within and across sectors, thinking about the fact that all sectors have something to bring to make our region thrive. So we're not just focused on one sector, and to make our region better for everyone means that each person, each community should have what they need to thrive. So how do we do that? We do that through open grant making programs. And there's really kind of four programs that I'll talk about. So first is community innovation, which is open to all those great ideas that communities have to really get at creative problem solving. The second is the Bush Fellowship, which is about helping incredible leaders get even stronger to take our region to new heights. The ecosystem program, which we'll talk more about with this particular role, is supporting organizations who help others problem solve. So to have that backbone, that foundation of support for problem solving in our region. And then we do a lot of work through sharing power, through partners, through grant program partners. And those are all across North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and the 23 Native nations. All these things support efforts to develop, test, and spread great ideas and aspire, equip, and connect people so that they can more effectively lead change. Stephanie, you want to take us to the next conversation?
I do. I love the way that we ask each other, do you want to? And what do you know? The slides actually take us there. Isn't that cool? This photo is of a recent staff retreat, and so it makes me smile every time I see it. We actually have another staff retreat that is happening tomorrow. So twice a year, at least twice a year, we get together to do a combination of a lot of fun and also some strategic planning. And so this was from a fall retreat. You can tell by maybe some of the leaves on the ground. But there are 36 of us on the Bush Foundation staff. 33 of us live in the Twin Cities near our headquarters in St. Paul. And the 36 people that work at the Bush Foundation come from a wide range of backgrounds and experience: community organizations, nonprofits, consulting, government, the arts, you name it. But that diversity of experience perspective is really intentional because we represent a region that is very big and very diverse in many ways. And we believe that having as much of that diversity reflected on our staff as possible really helps us serve the region's communities and people better. It also, incidentally, makes it a very fun place to work. So there is not a single thing that comes up where you do not have a huge range of opinions, recommendations. It is a pretty lively conversational space for all of us all the time. Let's give you a little bit of sense of what the folks on this call who work at the Bush Foundation, what they did before they came to the Bush Foundation. Anita, I'm going to throw it to you first.
All right. I worked primarily in the nonprofit sector before coming to the foundation. So I did domestic and sexual violence work. I worked with immigrant and refugee populations, did a lot of policy work. And then for a media decade before coming to the Bush Foundation, I led racial justice and public policy work for a large nonprofit in Minneapolis. So what I appreciate about all of that and about being at the Bush Foundation is all of it is thinking about how can we best be of service to help each person have what they need to rise to their potential so that we can really kind of create communities together and create communities that honor each of us. So I'm really glad to be here, and I'm glad to be here in a community of folks that come from all different kind of experiences. I think that makes us stronger.
Cool, I can go next. So I've been at Bush now for almost 2 years, coming up this summer. So prior to working at Bush, I actually worked for a couple years with the federal government in at the VA Loan Guarantee Division as a loan specialist, really assisting veterans avoid home foreclosure during COVID. Super fulfilling work, great people at the VA. And then prior to that, worked 7 years at McKnight Foundation, the brother foundation of Bush. I like to kind of think of it as. So I worked there as the HR generalist and then as the compensation and benefits manager. So in the roles, I did a lot of different facets of work related to HR, including compensation, benefits administration, hiring, recruitment, and payroll. Also pretty cool to participate as a contributor in some of their organizational redesign work towards the end and some of the policy updates that they had. Kim, I'll hand it off to you.
Thanks, Joni. Yeah, so I worked before Bush. I've also been here for almost 2 years also, started around the same time as Joni. Again, I don't know if I said this right, I'm the Talent Learning Evaluation Coordinator at Bush. So I help a lot with with stuff, doing random things. Sometimes it feels like I'm just like kind of I'm bopping around, saying hi and saying, "Do you need help with stuff?" And it's fun. Before I started at Bush, I worked at the Eastside Freedom Library in St. Paul, whose mission is to mobilize community knowledge for solidarity, justice, and equity for all. And I was the finance and operations manager there, really working to make sense of all the processes that were made, made by the founder and the people on the board that started the organization and were, leading the organization through those, I think, 10 years, first 10 years that when I had, by the time I had started. And so kind of similar, saying what do we need help with? What do we need to kind of operationalize? What processes do we need? Can't talk this morning. It's fine. um, and before that, I was in school doing a lot of different things. I did my undergrad in art history, and then uh, I have a background in nonprofit management, mostly around the arts and culture sector. Um, and that has all shown up in ways that are very obvious in my work, but also some ways that aren't. Like the arts part of it has shown up in really fun, different ways. Decorating things for staff retreats, for example. um, yeah, my roundabout way of telling everyone what I have done in the past few years. Anyway, sorry, Stephanie.
I love hearing from my teammates and colleagues and the things I learn. Kim enlivens every retreat we have with the most beautiful ways of, whether it's name cards or whatever, they help bring the spirit of learning to life. So I love that. And I always change up what I decide to highlight here. Today, I want to highlight the fact that I've had a couple chapters at the Bush Foundation. I've been here, I think, I heard from somebody that it was my 15-year anniversary this last week, which is crazy. I lose track of all of the cool things that I've done. I just know that I feel so grateful to have had a couple different chapters. I started at the Bush Foundation working on the program side, actually working on a teacher effectiveness initiative, and did that the first 5 years or so before I moved into more of the talent and HR work. And then about 3 years ago, added evaluation to that as well, which really lines up with a lot of the work that I did before I came to the Bush Foundation. I was in state government here in Minnesota for about a dozen years, doing a whole range of things, largely in the budget office. And so figuring out how to help decision makers, elected decision makers, make good decisions on how they wanted to use the resources that citizens provided to this state. I did that in a whole range of policy areas, focusing particularly on education and tax. But then at the end of my time in state government, had a statewide management role that really focused on how we focused on leadership development, HR infrastructure, IT infrastructure, so more of an operational focus, but really thinking about how do you bring 28 state agencies and another 100 boards and commissions all along to make things happen. Before I came to the state in Minnesota, I worked out east, doing a lot of different work in evaluation consulting, worked for a law firm getting pizza labels approved by the Food and Drug Administration. So a range of things in government and nonprofit work that has been really interesting. In my free time, I work on with a couple of community organizations. I've been the board chair of an organization called the Open Door in Dakota County that focuses on food access. And so really love the chance to think about how do you create conditions so that people can do cool stuff and improve the lives of all of us in this region. That's been the through line of my career, regardless of what I've been working on, really focusing on how I can help people continue to learn, bring curiosity and a sense of optimism to their work. And I love getting to do it with these cool people here. So that is all I'm going to say on this. And I think I throw it over to Joni at this point.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. So this slide has our 5 operating values, which are core to all the work that we do each day. You'll also see them listed on our website and the job posting. There are values that help guide our decisions that we make every day at the foundation and are a big part of how we operate. We look for people who can embrace and demonstrate these values in both their work and with our colleagues here at Bush. First one is spread optimism. We really encourage everyone internally and externally to think big and differently. We also promote positive, supportive interactions with each other in our work. The second one there is work beyond ourselves. We are a very collaborative group and share a lot, whether it's a project we're working on or an informal event. We are also intentional with when to lead and when to follow. The third one there is everybody matters. We are very open. We have a very open, inclusive processes. We really instill equity throughout everything that we do. One example of this is we have an open process to almost all projects that we are continually bringing in external partners or consultants to potentially work with. We are very intentional with this process and with the operating value of everybody matters. The fourth one there is steward well. In stewarding well, we really hold ourselves accountable for not only the work, but also for how we steward our funds with a deep appreciation and understanding of Bush's history, which goes back to, of course, the 1950s, as Stephanie mentioned. And the fifth one there is more good every year, or MIGI is our short way of saying it. We are a learning organization and we exist with this core mission in mind. We believe that each year we can grow and learn to do more good. You'll see some of this in the questions each of us asks and all the learning opportunities we have both together as all staff and individually on our own. So now, changing gears a bit, I want to introduce you more fully to our search partners here with us today, Chris and Bao Chow from Cohen Taylor, the search firm that we've asked to partner with us to find our next grant-making director. If you end up applying for this job, these two will likely be the first people you talk with. And so we wanted you to get a chance to get to know them. So with that, I'll hand it off now to Chris and Bao Chow to introduce themselves and their role in the search process.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Cohen, and we're excited to be here to talk about a couple of things. One is certainly the search process, and also how we'll be engaging with all of you in this search. I'm joined today with Bao Chow, who will introduce herself in a moment, and the two of us are the team that will be leading this search end to end with the internal stakeholders. A little bit about our firm. Cohen Taylor has been around as a firm, an entity. We've been around about 10 years. We are a national executive search firm. We are women-owned and committed to making a positive impact. And we do that in a few different ways, one of which is we are a social benefit corporation, a B certified entity, and we're also a 1% for the Planet business member, actively engaged with 1% for the Planet. Our team is made up of executives who all in, myself included, have about 25 years of search experience, executive search experience. And that's equated to probably about 1,000 searches that we've completed in over all of these years. Additionally, we've had the opportunity to work with Bush in the past, and we're thrilled for this opportunity to partner with them on this search. I'm now going to turn it over to Bao Chow, who's going to talk a little bit about our approach, the process, and how you can connect with us.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. I'm Bao Chow Espenson. I'm the Vice President of Operations and Executive Recruiter at Cohen Taylor. I started working in search in 2011, and then I left the industry for a short period of time to hone my skills in nonprofit DEI fundraising, moved to some corporate DEI, project management, operations, and learning and development. I'm really thrilled to be back in the executive search space and have this opportunity to work with Bush Foundation and connecting with all of you in this process. And as Chris mentioned, I'll be sharing information about our search process and kind of how we work with candidates throughout all of this hiring process. So Chris and I will be reviewing all applications to explore competencies and alignment with the role and ensuring that all candidates have a response and they receive a response, whether or not they are selected to move forward into the search process. So once candidates are selected to move forward, we will then have a phone interview and a video interview with our team. And then following that process, we'll work closely with the Bush Foundation hiring team to identify top candidates for the first round interviews. After that interview with the hiring team, a few candidates will be selected to move forward. Finalists will be asked for references. They'll go through an executive assessment and they'll have a final interview with the Bush team. So we're really excited to find the right candidate for this role. We look forward to supporting all of the candidates throughout this process. And if you have any questions about our timeline or the hiring process, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I think I'm turning it over to Joni.
Yeah, thanks, Bao and Chris. Great to work with them as a team for this search. So our partners, Chris and Bao will, as Bao mentioned, review applications as they come in. Please do consider applying sooner rather than later. Applications will be accepted by Cohen Taylor through Friday, May 16th. And first round interviews will begin May 28th and 29th and will be virtual via Zoom. And then the finalist interviews will follow and will be in person, likely June 16th and 17th. And then we'll have a target start time for this role sometime mid-July. We're looking at July 14th, although of course there's flexibility depending on the candidate. I think Bao went over the hiring process. If there's anything to add, I'll just ask Bao and Chris if they have anything else to add about the hiring process or search. Okay, we're good. So I'll hand it off to Anita for the next slide.
Yeah, so on this slide, you see the team that you would be joining if you stepped into this role, and you see all of their names here. Not each of them is pictured because we ask folks, do you want your picture shared? Not everybody does, and this is just a part of our values and action, knowing that for some people, for lots of different reasons, they like their picture out there, and for others, they don't. But what I hope you get a sense of here is the incredible people that make up the grant making team. This team is a group that really works in deep collaboration with each other. So each member works across all of those grant making programs that I mentioned before, with the idea that when a community member reaches out to us with some idea that they'd like funded, it's our job as staff to figure out where might it fit within the programs we offer. So all of our team members need to know what those programs are, how they function, what we think about in terms of the purpose of those programs. This team makes decisions, just got braces, trying to figure out how to talk with them, makes decisions together. So with all of the work we do, we hear about great ideas, incredible leaders across the region, and we have to make decisions on those that best fit our funding. This team comes together. They each share their perspective on what they see, what they've learned from being in communication with others across the region, and together they get to decisions. So if you're a person who likes to be in conversation with others to find a path forward, this is a great role for you, while also being confident in bringing your own perspective into those discussions. You might hear a little bit in there that we're really thinking about what we are learning when we're part of communities, when we're talking with communities, because our region is made up of so much diversity of different types. We are always thinking about the context in which particular work is coming forward or particular leaders are trying to make change. So if you're a person who really loves to understand what does change look like in any given environment, this is a really interesting role. There's a lot I could talk about, but maybe the last thing I'll say is that we have a very specific commitment to Native nations at the Bush Foundation. And so Native strategy weaves its way through every single program that we have. Again, looking for someone who understands Native nations in our region, who has curiosity to learn more about themselves, about others, and who is really excited to do that in collaboration with others. And I think with that, I'll go into some of the kind of key responsibilities that we're thinking about for this role. So you'll see grant making management, a big part of it. So this role oversees the ecosystem program, which is that backbone program, right? Organizations that others rely on, organizations that help people solve problems in our region, that bring policy, that bring best practices, that kind of help convene people so that those ideas can spark and flow. This person also really has to be an experienced manager and people leader. You will be supervising others. You'll be supervising people who report to other directors for different parts of their work. So you've got to be great at really liaising with other directors to see what do you need for your programs? How can we support the team to develop the skills you need? Relationship management, huge. You've heard it kind of throughout this webinar. Part of the value that we can bring at the Bush Foundation is being in deep relationship with one another, with people across the region, so that we can make the best use of resources in the way that the community needs them to be used. Organizational leadership. This is a role that's on our, management team. It's someone who needs to bring in a perspective about how do we keep building culture? How do we think about building culture in a hybrid environment? How do we kind of look at the different risks that are happening in our world right now, and what's the strategy we can use to meet them? Speaking of strategy, strategic planning. Someone can think through, where do we need to go? How do we need to get there? And who are we doing it with? And hopefully you bring experience that you've done some of that before. And then, of course, this external relations piece, again, related to relationship management and a number of the other things, but someone who really enjoys engaging with others, someone who enjoys amplifying others, amplifying the opportunities that grantees have that we think others should know about. So really looking for that person who is excited to really think about what can connection bring, what can we do together that we couldn't do alone. Stephanie, you're up.
I'm going to talk now about who do we think the kind of person is who can do all of those things and really thrive in that job. So it's a lot of things, and just want to be clear that we don't expect everybody's as deep in all of these things, but really looking for somebody who has a lot of this. Obviously, Anita was just talking about external relations and some of the ways that we're looking at relationship management as it's such a core part of this job. So regional insight, understanding of this region that we work in, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and the 23 Native nations in that geography. We don't expect that you are as connected across every single community. That would be lovely, but probably not likely. But we really want somebody who has an understanding of this place that we work in. Again, you heard about the effective people leader and manager pieces of that. Really looking for somebody who enjoys that interaction, who enjoys that mentorship, that development of people, and trying to think about how to again create the conditions so that the folks on the grant making team can do the best work that they can. A relationship builder and able to work effectively with a great variety of people, both internally and externally, and in a wide variety of contexts. Sometimes we're at big meetings in a community that include a lot of community leaders. Sometimes we're at little tiny coffee shop conversations where people are not really sure if talking with the foundation is a comfortable place for them to be. Looking for people who are comfortable in each of those contexts, and or really ready and willing to learn and develop their own skills to be effective in a whole variety of places and spaces. That means looking for somebody who's adaptable, who's flexible, who's curious and active. We've said learning probably 1,000 times in this webinar already, and that is an accurate reflection of how we approach the work and our lives together. That also, again, to that independent place, you're going to have to make decisions in this role about how to use your time and how to work with people, and whether or not there's an idea that you think should be followed up on or not. So looking for somebody who both really wants to hear what other people think and is able to move forward independently. Obviously, versatile communication skills on a whole range of ways and contexts is important as well. That is, I think, the wish list. You'll see more of that in the profile, but just wanted to highlight those things as we go on. I think will continue then on talking about the nuts and bolts of this job. You'll see again a lot of this in the profile as well, but just wanted to highlight a couple things. One of them is that the salary there is a oddly specific number of $200,676. We come to that oddly specific number through a lot of research, and I want to just give you a little bit of understanding of how we arrive at our salary numbers. We put a lot of thought into how we approach compensation. It's again how our work in equity shows up in the day-to-day. We set salaries by reviewing a big range of industry data sets, of external data sets, working with an external consultant. So that helps us know that the salary that we're offering is competitive with what similar organizations would pay for similar work. And once we've done that analysis, that's what we pay. We don't negotiate regardless of whether that's a big increase or a decrease for the candidate that we're talking with. But it also helps us have people know what they're going to be getting. It also avoids building inequities into our pay structure at the very beginning by doing it by depending on whether or not somebody is comfortable negotiating. We know research shows that people have different levels of comfort with that. We don't want to start out with that. And we also know that once you're thinking about accepting a job, probably the last thing you really want to do is enter into a hard negotiation with your supervisor to be. So we found that it's really important that we tell you straight up, here's what we're going to do, and then that we stick to that. Moving on to benefits, we offer generous benefits. They're competitive as well. Medical, dental, the things you might expect from an employer that's trying to do the right thing. I want to make a special note of our support for professional development. Joni talked about our use of the acronym of MIGI, More Good Every Year. We talk about MIGI plans that each individual has every year, and people get MIGI bucks to further their professional development plans. And so we provide funds and, importantly, time and encouragement for people to take their MIGI plans and make them real. Our offices are in downtown St. Paul. As we said earlier, that's our current home, but it's also one of the communities that was really important in Archie Bush's life. He was born in Granite Falls, but he spent a good deal of his life and career here in St. Paul and was very active in civic life. So we're glad to be here. We have full support for home office setup because we are hybrid. And the picture that you see here is of the offices that we'll be moving into later in the year. So we're excited, very excited to be doing that. It's just a couple blocks away from our current office in the US Bank building, but a lot of work cleaning up a lot of things right now to get ready for that move. About our hybrid work schedule, we are really committed to flexibility in the way that we work and where we work so that people have time to connect when they need to in person, and also time to do things in a different way as they need to as well. We come together every Wednesday with an extra day each month for connection and learning. I mentioned that we have a staff retreat coming up this week, so we'll actually be getting together to do that monthly thing, and we're looking forward to that together. I also want to make sure that you know that our remote staff travel to Twin Cities once a quarter, and so as I mentioned before, we have a couple people that live outside of the Twin Cities. Two of those are grant-making officers who report to the grant-making director that we're hiring for here. They come to the Twin Cities at least once a quarter for things like retreats, for things like other program work that they're doing. So I think that's all. I'm checking in with Joni, Kim, and if there's anything I missed there. If not, we're going to turn it over back to Kim.
Stephanie. So now to kind of close out our webinar, we have a little Q&A section, knowing just that some people might have some questions, and there's generally some commonly asked questions that we get, I know people generally have when they are interviewing for a new position or looking at a new position at an organization. But really quickly, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If I can remember how to stop sharing my screen. Yes, I do. Okay. All right. So to start us off, I'm gonna ask Anita, what do you think is the biggest challenge for this role?
I'm going to break the rules and I'm going to name two that I think actually are really interesting kind of puzzles to solve. The first one is that this director has interaction with a lot of different areas, but specific responsibility for running the ecosystem program. And I think one of the kind of puzzles to solve is how do we best make sure that people across the region and beyond know what these ecosystem grantees can offer. They offer incredible trainings, resources, and I think one of the cool things that this person will get to take on is what's the strategy for really elevating and amplifying that work and ensuring that staff know about that work so they can share it as well. The second kind of intriguing puzzle is you're going to be supervising grant-making officers who not only some are located in Twin Cities, some are located in North Dakota, South Dakota, but also report for different aspects of the work to others. You heard me mention that earlier, but just to bring that to life, you maybe saw on the photos of the team, Adora Land. So Adora leads the Bush Fellowship Program. All of the grant-making officers have interaction with that program. So they're looking out for intriguing candidates to talk with them about the fellowship. They're helping with selection. So there's particular things that they need in terms of skills, in terms of kind of understanding the strategy of the fellowship program. And you're kind of in the middle of that. So you're talking with Adora to hear what does she need. You're talking with the grant making officers to see how's their experience going. And you're helping develop kind of growth plans so that those grant making officers can really thrive working across programs. That's a little bit unique. Not everyone in every organization supervises people who work across areas in that way, but a really intriguing way to think about bringing and contributing to kind of the growth of people in service of contributing to the region. So those are a couple that I'd say.
Thank you, Anita. I love your framing of it being like puzzles and intriguing. It makes me think of learning stuff, learning culture. My next question is for Stephanie. Can someone live outside the Twin Cities for this position?
Thanks, Kim. We're a place-based foundation, as we've said before. So the place that we're in is really important in how we think about our work. So we require that all Bush Foundation staff live in the region we serve. So that area of that is the geography of Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, the 23 Native nations in that space. We have 3 people who live outside of the Twin Cities, as I mentioned, 2 in South Dakota, 1 in North Dakota. And so really looking for a grant-making director who is ready to move across, to work across this region. We prefer that the grant-making director be based in the Twin Cities, but we're really open to great folks who live in the region, and wherever the grant-making director lives, need somebody who is adept, excited, ready to really think about how to support people effectively who are hybrid. Given the fact that we have, regardless of where the grant-making director lives, we have a couple of staff who they will be interacting with regularly, who are outside of the Twin Cities. So we're looking for somebody who really gets how to do great supervision in a remote environment. Anita, anything you want to add on that?
I would just add that in general, we're looking for someone who is intrigued by and has experience with leading in a hybrid culture. Because no matter where people live, we do a lot of things on screen. And so how do you create connection? How do you create deep conversations, whether that is in person or on screen?
Awesome, thank you. And then next question, I'm going to throw it over to our search partners, Chris or Bachao, or either one of you can answer this. You've been working with us closely, both with this position and others in the past. Are you able to share any thoughts on what you've observed about the foundation and the people who work here?
Without yet again referencing learning, I think that's just such a given. We just feel it, and probably if we check this video, we've said it 100 times. More importantly than with that is this, that we have found everyone we've had conversations with, engaged with, passionate about their work, passionate about the communities you serve, and actually incredibly supportive of this process, helping us to understand how to maximize our connections with candidates, to talk about a supportive and inclusive search process. So that's what we've seen and felt.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can I share
Uh,
one reflection back, Kim?
Yeah.
I just wanted to name, so Chris recruited me to the Bush Foundation about 10 years ago. And I just want to honor the transparency, the care that Cohen Taylor brings, and that I think you'll experience with Chris and Bao Chao. Just people who really care about finding folks who can lead in ways that help us kind of be our authentic selves in our roles. And so just want to honor what Chris and Bao Chao bring through Cohen Taylor.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. And then finally, something that I think a lot of people would want to know is what it's like to work at the Bush Foundation. Just wondering what each of us like most. And so I will start. And I've done a few of these things. I always try to say something different. I don't think I ever do. Um, so I think, and there's also always multiple. For one, the learning culture, as we continue to say, I think it has been so great to have one, the resources to be able to expand what I'm learning to be able to like connect with other staff or with other organizations to kind of learn something more things that are relevant to my work, but also not relevant to my work. Just kind of really thinking about all the things. Just I know sometimes I've talked to people in my private life that are like, oh gosh, professional development so rough sometimes. I don't want to think about my goals. But I always love doing that. Like the past couple of years, being able to just think really broadly and widely and not question if like, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this because I don't know if it counts or and stuff. Or I don't know if we can, will they pay for that book? I don't know. Most likely, yes. And that feels good to be able to say, yeah, they really want me to learn that, I'm sure. um, and also that random things that I know how to do seem to be something that people like to appreciate, or not like to, but do appreciate, like crafting little things for retreats or getting a bunch of snacks for people or running around talking to people in their offices. It's like a special appreciation that can go unnoticed, but doesn't, not the Bush Foundation, which I appreciate and enjoy and like. That's all from me, Stephanie.
I love that. And I will also add that Kim has a special talent at asking the most important questions as you're working along. She's doing all these other things to curate and to, as she has pointed out, add her own magic to a lot of the work. She wouldn't put it in those terms, but I love the fact, and I'm going to just continue on because what I love is that at the Bush Foundation, every one of us, we hope, I think we could always do more of this, but we get to contribute lots of parts of us into the work. And so that means that our roles are the beginning point for our contributions, and but they're not the ending point. Sometimes I may have something that I want to bring up or that I have a question about that is not really related to anything I have a lot of experience in, but I want to know more about it. And so that's partly how the learning culture also takes root in our daily life, which is it is okay to say, I know a lot less about this than you do, a person who may be expert in something, but here's what I wonder about. And we again think that that leads to a better outcome, but also probably is an accurate representation of the kind of people that we're working with across the region. And so trying to really bring different perspectives into that work. It also closely relates to the equity work that we do. And I've been able to learn so many things about the things both that I know and the things I don't know and the things I need to know and didn't know I needed to know. And so the work that I do, especially with Kim and Joni and in the talent side of our team, we get the chance to coordinate a lot of conversations around inclusion and equity. One of the things we're working with right now is around how to build skills internally around psychological safety. And Joni particularly has been leading a process to get some proposals from organizations who want to help us do that. I love the fact that we get to again, learn about those things and bring them in to create a culture and a workplace that is about our own individual development, all of it with an eye towards how do we make this region be a place that's better for everyone, that everybody can thrive in. And that is having that kind of individual beginning for community impact is really cool. I think I finished most of these with saying it's really cool. I have lots of other adjectives, but I guess I'm using that one today. So that's what I would say. Joni, what really cool things do you want to focus on?
So I have nothing new. I'm gonna expand actually on my top of mind was learning culture too. Um, I'm gonna expand. So I'm really excited about the equity work that we're doing. We have two groups. Stephanie talked about our kind of the proposals that we're receiving for our psychological safety and trust building. I'm super excited about that. Um, I just want to say the learning culture here, it's a push and pull, and it's kind of like jumping out of our comfort zones. So you can feel it. It's not comfortable all the time, which is different in some organizations because we're really trying to like push our boundaries and our growth levels. Um, and it's sometimes the learning is with all staff, sometimes the learning is with our team. It could be individually, personal, driven growth that we want to focus on. Even just the networking opportunities that we have to work with community members and other organizations. Coming up in May, Kim and I are actually going to this APIP, Asian American
Practitioners
Pacific
and philanthropy.
practitioners in philanthropy. It changed a bit, but this huge conference with philanthropic and nonprofit organizations in Chicago. So just all those opportunities are really exciting to look forward to. And then also, amid all of this knowledge-based heavy learning that we're doing, just when you meet each person one-on-one at Bush Foundation, everybody is just so like down to earth and welcoming and just easy to talk to and get to know. So I really appreciate just the colleagues at Bush Foundation too. Anita, I'll hand it off to you.
So I absolutely agree with what Kim, Joni, and Stephanie have raised, but I'm gonna take, and I think I'll take a slightly different but related answer, which is I think the variety of things that you'll do in this role kind of relate to this idea of continuing to learn and grow, being able to bring different parts of yourself. And I want to name it because I think part of our role at this webinar is to help you see, is this a role you'd be interested in? So I'll just frame, you'll be traveling across the region, trying to meet with folks to understand who's doing great work. You'll be day to day really reading community innovation applications, trying to figure out, is this application the highest impact use of dollars and resources that we can make? You'll be engaging in conversations about the direction of our organization, how you think the culture is going, what kinds of decisions should we be making. You'll be supervising grant-making officers, thinking about growth and development of them, of yourself. And you will be rapidly switching mindsets pretty frequently between all of those different things and more. That is incredible. I love that. And I think many people who are at the Bush Foundation have kind of come to find that as part of our rhythm. And I'll name that's not for everyone, right? So if you're a person who likes to be able to focus in one area and kind of really excel in that thing, that is awesome, but it may be a little harder at the Bush Foundation. Not that we can't figure out ways to do it. So I really want to be clear about that. We're flexing, we're growing all the time. And this is a role that in really awesome ways has a lot under its purview. And you'll kind of be moving, shifting directions, thinking deeply about one topic, and then 5 minutes later need to think really deeply about a very different topic. I think it's really fun to say the things we love about the Bush Foundation, and I want to be transparent because not everyone likes operating in that way.
I can jump in. I want to add one more thing to this job may not be for you as well. Really picking up on what Anita said. And I think what is true, a lot of you may not have experience in a foundation, and you may be drawn to philanthropy because it seems like a really great place to be. And I hope you've heard from all of us. It is a great place to be. And it also isn't about usually making that amazing call to an organization or a person to say, you got the grant, you got the fellowship. It's actually most likely saying no. Having conversations with people around great ideas they have and realizing this is not actually a fit for the programs we have, or maybe a better fit in some other time or space. And so figuring out how to hold that complexity of being encouraging, and also maybe realizing that a direct, honest let down to people is the best way to do it. Just want you to understand too that that is part of what this job is all about. Chris and Bao Chao do that all the time as well in their work as search partners, that it is a great thing when you get to make the call to say yes. And a lot of what we're trying to do is really to figure out what's the right alignment. We know that the circle of things that are great ideas is huge, and the things that we fund is a lot smaller. And so wanted to make sure that that's something, as you're considering whether or not to apply for this job, that you're also putting in to your calculation as well. I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Anita and Stephanie, for that transparency around that. I think that's such important things to highlight for someone that is looking into this position. Well, that brings us to the close of our webinar. Thanks for listening, and I hope you found this helpful.